If your clematis looked absolutely spectacular in late spring, but now, halfway through July, the flowers have thinned out, the vine seems to have stalled, or the leaves are looking a little tired, don't assume something is wrong. In most cases, your clematis is doing exactly what it's supposed to do at this point in the season. The real problem is what gardeners do next in response. Some people flood the plant with water every evening thinking it's thirsty. Others hit it with high nitrogen fertilizer, hoping to force another round of blooms. Some cut the vine back hard because they've decided it's finished for the year. Every one of those instincts causes a specific problem, and in the case of one particular symptom that shows up on large flowered varieties, misreading it and overreacting can cost you months of growth you didn't need to lose. Today, I'm giving you exactly what clematis needs this month, and the mistakes that quietly rob next year's flowers before most gardeners even realize what happened. Before we get into it, drop your US state or growing zone in the comments right now. Clematis behaves very differently in Zone 4 than it does in Zone 9, and I want everything here to actually apply to where you're gardening. I read every comment. Let's go. Number 1. Keep the roots cool even though the top of the plant needs full sun. Every clematis grower has heard the phrase, heads in the sun, feet in the shade, but most people only apply half of it. They make sure the vine climbs somewhere sunny and stop thinking about the root zone entirely. That's a mistake specifically in July, because clematis develops a shallow network of feeder roots close to the soil surface, and afternoon sun heats that top layer of soil fast. The soil around those roots can get noticeably hotter than the air above it, and when that happens, the plant responds in ways that don't look obviously related to heat. Flower production slows down, leaves lose some of their rich color, new shoots grow more slowly than they should. During a real heat wave, flower buds can fail to develop properly at all. The fix doesn't involve moving the plant. Keep 2 to 3 inches of mulch, shredded bark, or compost around the base to insulate the soil and hold moisture, but leave a gap around the crown itself. Piling mulch directly against the stems traps moisture there and invites fungal problems. A lot of experienced growers also plant low growers like hardy geraniums, hocheras, or creeping phlox right around the base of the clematis. You're not shading the vine, you're shading its roots specifically, and that's the part of the plant actually struggling in July heat. Number 2, deadhead your repeat bloomers now, because every faded flower left on the vine is stealing energy from the next one. Once a clematis flower fades, the plant immediately starts putting energy into producing seed heads. Those fluffy silver seed heads you see later in the season are genuinely beautiful, but making them costs the plant resources that could otherwise go into fresh shoots or a second round of flowers. This doesn't mean strip every spent bloom immediately. If you like the ornamental seed heads in fall, leave some. But for large flowered hybrids that naturally produce 2 flowering periods a year, this is the window that determines whether you get that second flush. Follow the faded flower stem down to the first strong pair of healthy leaves and make a clean cut just above that leaf joint. That single cut redirects the plant's energy toward new flowering growth instead of finishing out old seed production. Here's where it matters to know what you're actually growing. Not every clematis behaves this way. Some varieties flower once a season and are done regardless of what you do. Others bloom continuously on fresh growth all summer. If you don't know which type is in your garden, save the plant tag next time you buy one. It becomes genuinely useful information months later when this exact decision comes up. Number 3, guide the new soft growth now, while it's still flexible, instead of fighting with woody stems later. Everyone assumes the thick older stems are the part of the plant that needs attention, but they're not the concern in July. Look at the growing tips instead. Those soft green shoots can extend several inches a week during active growth, and they climb by wrapping their leaf stalks, the petioles, around anything thin enough to grip: wire, twine, narrow trellis, even a neighboring branch. If you don't guide these while they're still soft, they tangle with each other, and summer wind can twist or snap them. Once those same stems harden into woody growth later in the season, repositioning them becomes difficult and often breaks them outright. Spend a few minutes every week or two checking your vine and gently directing new shoots toward open sections of the support rather than letting them pile up in one spot. Use soft ties only if necessary, and keep them loose. Clematis stems thicken fast during the growing season, and a tight tie girdles the stem as it grows. This habit pays off in a way most gardeners don't notice until later years. Instead of every flower clustering near the top of the trellis, you get blooms distributed from the base all the way up. If this is the first time anyone's actually walked you through the reasoning behind clematis care, instead of just handing you a checklist, hit subscribe right now. This channel goes deep on exactly this kind of plant-specific detail every week. Number 4. Read the leaves before you panic about the flowers. Flowers come and go, but leaves stay on the vine for months, which makes foliage one of the best early indicators of how your clematis is actually doing. Healthy leaves are firm, evenly colored, and free of unusual spotting. If the older leaves near the base are yellowing while new growth up top stays healthy, that's usually just normal aging as the plant redirects energy upward, not a problem. Uniform pale leaves across the entire vine tell a different story and usually point to a nutrient imbalance, prolonged water stress, or compacted soil restricting the roots. Brown, crispy edges typically show up after a stretch of intense heat combined with inconsistent watering. White powdery patches point to powdery mildew, especially where airflow around the vine is poor. Before reaching for a chemical treatment, the moment you see a blemish, check the actual growing conditions first. Has a nearby shrub crowded the base? Is the soil staying constantly wet? Is mulch piled against the stems? Is there enough sun and airflow for the foliage to dry out after rain? Fixing the environment solves most of these before they become serious. One more thing worth checking specifically in July. Flip a few leaves over and look at the undersides. Spider mites get more active in hot, dry weather, and because they're nearly invisible, you'll usually spot the damage. Tiny, pale speckling, leaves losing their rich green color, before you spot the mites themselves. If you catch it early, keeping the soil consistently moist and knocking the undersides of the leaves with a firm water spray handles most light infestations without needing a spray treatment. Number 5. Learn to tell real clematis wilt apart from ordinary afternoon heat droop, because panicking over the wrong one costs you months of vine. Few phrases make clematis growers more nervous than clematis wilt, and the instinct the moment a stem looks limp is to assume the disease has arrived and start cutting the whole plant down. But not every wilted clematis has clematis wilt. In July, it's completely normal for a vine, especially a large flowered hybrid, to look slightly droopy during the hottest part of the afternoon and then recover fully by evening or the next morning. That's just heat response, not disease. True clematis wilt looks different and behaves differently. Instead of gradually looking tired over several hot days, one previously healthy stem collapses almost overnight. Leaves turn black or dark brown, flowers shrivel fast, and the stem looks like its water supply was cut off entirely, while the rest of the plant stays perfectly fine. If you see this, don't panic and don't pull the whole plant. Follow the affected stem down toward the base and cut it back several inches below the damaged section with clean, disinfected pruners. Then dispose of the material in the trash rather than the compost pile. Here's the part that should change your reaction entirely. Clematis is typically planted a few inches deeper than it sat in the nursery pot specifically, so there are dormant buds below soil level. If a stem is lost to wilt, those buried buds very often produce replacement growth within a few weeks. The lesson isn't to fear wilt. It's to identify it correctly before you make a drastic decision you didn't need to make. Number 6. This is not the month for a heavy feed. It's the month for steady, balanced recovery. When the spring flower show fades, the instinct is to hit the plant with another round of fertilizer to force it back into bloom. This usually backfires. High nitrogen feed produces lush, soft, fast growth that looks impressive at first, but flower production actually slows because the plant is investing in leaves instead of buds. That soft new growth is also more vulnerable to drought stress, fungal disease, and physical damage in summer storms. If your clematis is growing in decent garden soil with compost added regularly, it may need very little extra feeding right now. Container-grown vines are the exception, since regular watering flushes nutrients out of potting mix faster. A light balanced feed after the first flush is usually enough there. By late July, stop feeding altogether. The goal at this point in the season is steady, mature growth that supports current flowering while building reserves for next year, not another growth spurt. Number 7. Check your supports before a summer storm checks them for you. This is the task that almost never makes it onto a Clematis care list, and it can save an entire season's growth. By midsummer, your vine has likely added several feet of new growth, which means more surface area for wind to catch during a storm. A trellis, wire, or arbor that held up fine in spring can fail without warning once that load increases. And because mature Clematis stems become woody and brittle, a broken vine often can't be repaired. Spend a few minutes checking screws, brackets, and ties. Replace any garden twine that's gone brittle in the sun, and look for stems rubbing repeatedly against rough wood or metal. That friction damages bark and creates an entry point for disease. As you guide new growth this month, spread it evenly across the support instead of letting it pile up at the top. That improves airflow and distributes wind load more evenly across the whole structure. Here's the bigger picture worth keeping in mind through all of this. July isn't just about this season's flowers. It's quietly shaping next year's display too. Consistent watering through dry spells, healthy disease-free leaves, properly supported stems, and moderate rather than excessive feeding all build a stronger vine capable of a better show next year. Resist the urge to keep fixing your Clematis every few days. These vines respond better to consistency than constant intervention. Here's your complete July Clematis checklist. Keep the root zone cool with mulch or companion planting, but leave breathing room around the crown. Deadhead spent flowers on repeat bloomers to stop unnecessary seed production. Guide new soft growth onto the support now while it's still flexible. Check leaf color regularly, since it usually reveals a problem before the flowers do. Learn to tell real Clematis wilt apart from ordinary afternoon heat droop before you cut anything back. Skip the heavy nitrogen feed and focus on light, balanced growth instead. And walk your supports for loose ties, worn twine, or rubbing stems before storm season gets here. Subscribe if you haven't already, hit the bell, and before you go, tell me 2 things in the comments. Which Clematis are you growing? A large flowered hybrid, a Viticella, a Montana, something else? And what's the biggest issue your vine is dealing with right now? I read every single comment, and your answers shape what this channel covers next. Now go check your Clematis and look at the roots before you look at the flowers.